Hello everyone, Phelandea here. I'm sure you've all heard the saying, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. That's actually kind of the premise that I'm using for this video series I'm about to start. As I stream live my trucking simulation and even some of my farm simulation videos, I tend to get some very interesting reactions to some of the mods that I've made for the game. Hey man, that's a really cool looking mod, great work, to oh my God, you don't have that mod as public, it's a private mod, why are you using it in your video? You shouldn't be showing stuff that's not public. Wow, entitled much? I decided to go ahead and use that as motivation to teach you guys that anybody can mod. Anyone. You don't need to be a genius to mod. I am not a genius. If I can mod, you can mod. I'm gonna go ahead and start a video series. I'm hoping to get an episode out every week so that you guys can kind of follow along. It's about all I have time to do because I'm out on the road for a week at a time. I only get home time once a week, so really I'm only gonna have time to do an episode a week, but I'm gonna try and do an episode a week until we have a full series that teaches you guys all of the fundamentals of modding in Truck Simulator. Now, am I going to cover everything? No. There are certain things that I cannot do yet. My skill set, I haven't learned it yet, so I won't be able to teach you guys until I learn it myself. By the time I get done with this series, you guys should be able to pick up and go running on your own with it. By the way, I appreciate those of you that have supported me in my videos and not harassed me because not all my mods are public. I've been burned. I made a mod public, and within 24 hours of that mod going public, multiple websites had it up from different people claiming it as their own work. Never again. With that happening to me, I'm through modding publicly. None of my mods will ever be public. But the least I could do is teach you guys how to do it on your own, and that way you guys can enjoy the creativity for yourselves. All right, let's go ahead and get started. This one is going to be on how to set up for modding in SCS Software's American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2. That's it, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and open up a browser. First place we're gonna go is blender.org, and don't worry, all the links are down in the description below, so don't worry about looking at the screen or trying to type the URL out. Just scroll down to the description and you can click on these links to follow along. All right, so there's download Blender, and you're gonna be tempted to click on that, right? We do not wanna click on download Blender. We're gonna actually come up here to the top where it says download and click that in the top of the bar up here. And then there's this download Blender 3.1. Again, we do not want that. What we wanna do is actually come up here to the top where it says download builds, demo files, long-term support, previous versions, release notes, and requirements. We want the one that says long-term support, LTS. So LTS release is currently maintained, Blender 2.93 LTS. This is the one we want. At the time, it's a keeper. Initially released in June 2021, Blend 293 LTS will get continued support and fixes until June of 2023. So until June of 2023, this is the go-to for Blender for your LTS. So we're gonna go ahead and download it. For those of you on Windows, I'm gonna actually make it very clear. You do not, I say again, you do not want to download from the Windows Store. The reason why, if you download from the Windows Store, it will keep updating Blender automatically, and that can actually break some of the plugins. As of right now, at version 293, all of the SCS software plugins, Blender tools, and all of the stuff that we're going to be downloading today works in this release. So we're going to actually scroll down here, LTS release 293.8. And I'm going to go ahead and download for whatever operating system you're on. I'm on Windows. I'm going to download the installer. Oh, I know I'm breathtaking. Thank you, Blender. Anyway, so I'm going to actually navigate to my main drive, and I actually created a folder over here called Mod Workshop with no spaces. It's a root directory folder. It's not my documents or anything like that. The reason why is converter tools. When we get that far in this video, so I will explain this again later on, but for right now, converter tools does not like long directory lines, and it does not like spaces. So with no spaces, I created a folder called Mod Workshop, and in here I've already created some folders. Nothing is in any of these folders, but I have them in the order in which I'm going to fetch and work with these files. The first of which is Blender. So I have a folder called 01_Blender, no spaces. I never use spaces when it comes to modding. Let's save it. All right, now it's downloaded. Let's go ahead and click on the MSI. So it should open up. I'm gonna minimize the browser here. All right, so the setup wizard will install Blender on your computer. Click next to continue. All right, I'm gonna accept the terms. Next, I'm just gonna leave this stuff default. C program files, Blender Foundation, Blender 293. That is fine. Let's go ahead and install. All right, so it's validating the install, copying new files, updating registration, copying more new files, doing what it does, what installers like to do. All right, and then we're gonna click finish to exit. Now I have this icon on my desktop called Blender, and I'm actually going to right click this because I mod a lot, and I'm going to pin this to my taskbar down here. And then I like to keep my desktop clean, so I'm gonna take this Blender and put it up here in my studio folder. Studio's where a lot of my creativity stuff goes. I'm actually going to start Blender real quick, just to create any subdirectories, app data, or whatever the Blender might need to do. Also, confirming 293.8. Okay, there it is. Now, this stuff is up to you. I'm going to leave this all at default because I like Blender's default stuff. In the future, anytime I boot up, it should come straight to this screen here. If you click anywhere off the screen, that'll go away. I'm not worried about the interface or this cube or the camera at the moment. We're going to get to that momentarily. I'm going to go ahead and close Blender because now everything I need should be prepped. All right, we're done with blender.org. I'm going to close that tab. Next step is to go to modding.scs.com/wiki. That link is in the description. And once you're there, we're going to go ahead and go down to SES Blender Tools on the left side here. We have Game Archive Extractor, documentation or download. We're going to click on the download link, download the extractor here. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go up to my mod workshop and we're going to go into step 2, the SCS extractor. All right, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and go show in folder, and we're going to right click, and I'm going to whatever zip program you use. A lot of guys use WinRAR, WinZip, whatever. I prefer 7-zip. I used to be a WinRAR fanatic, but lately WinRAR's been kind of letting me down, so I've switched to 7-zip. Anyway, I'm going to go to 7-zip or whatever zip software you're using. It doesn't matter if you're using WinRAR, WinZip, or 7-zip. Extract here. And there it is. We have our SCS extractor.exe. I'm going to go ahead and delete the zip because I can always download it in the future if I ever need to. And it's just a waste of disk space to have duplicate stuff sitting around. So SCS extractor exec is now out and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and close that window. And we're going to go to the next step. I'm going to hit back on my SCS wiki. And then we're going to go to SCS Blender Tools, and we're going to go download. And I'm going to go ahead and get this up here, the latest release at the time of this video. It may be different if you're watching this sometime in the future, but for right now, it's 2.2.1, 864 kilobytes. I know that's so huge, right? So let's go ahead and download this. I'm going to put it into 3 SCS Blender Tools. Before I do anything with that, I'm going to go ahead and grab the conversion tools as well. So I'm going to go download, and here's the link to 12. Okay, so we're going to click on link 2.1.2, and for some reason, it won't do anything. It just keeps refreshing. Now, this is an issue I have sometimes with downloads around the net. This is actually easily worked around. I'm going to actually right click on it
and go save link as, and there it is, conversiontools.zip. Where there's a will, there's a way. Go to conversion tools. This is in 5. Remember, I skipped 4. We're going to actually go back to 4 here in a second, but 5 conversion tools. Now it's giving me this warning. It can't be downloaded securely. I'm still going to keep the file. That's what Chrome was doing. Chrome thinks this is suspicious. It's not suspicious. So there it is. That's why it was blocking it up here. And when I right click to do save link as, it was to work around and forced it to come up and give me the option to go ahead and download it. Okay, so now we're actually done with the SCS wiki. Let's go ahead and close that tab. Okay, so again, this link is going to be in the description down below. I'm going to go ahead and go to ConverterPix wrapper GitHub, and I'm going to get the latest release. At the time of this video, the release is version 2.0. So down here on the right where you see releases, I'm going to click on release. And then I'm going to grab IO ConverterPix wrapper.zip. This one is going to go into folder number 4, ConverterPix. And then we're going to go ahead and unwrap that. So extract here and then get rid of the zip. And we should have this IO folder. Okay, so now we have 2 folders that have an IO in it. Blender Tools and ConverterPix. This is where we're going to do steps 3 and 4. I'm going to come over here, get rid of my download, and we're going to go ahead and close the browser for now. Empty my recycle bin because it's always good practice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my file explorer. I'm going to go into my C drive, and then I'm going to go into program files, Blender Foundation, Blender 293. Okay, so we have this subfolder 293. And then we have a 2.93 up here, scripts, add-ons, and we're going to stop right here. So we should be in Blender 293, scripts, add-ons. At this point, I'm going to come to my SCS Blender tools, and I'm going to copy, get rid of that zip file. I'm going to copy and paste. Destination folder access denied. You'll need to provide administrator permission to copy to this folder. No problem. Continue. Depending on your Windows settings, you may or may not be asked that. Now, I'm also going to go into my ConverterPix wrapper, IO ConverterPix wrapper. Paste that over, same thing, hit continue, and now we have both set up. Right on. So now I can actually close the add-ons folder, and we're going to relaunch Blender. This is where it's going to start getting fun. Close the splash screen. I'm going to go to Edit, Preferences. On the left side, I'm going to click Add-ons. In the search bar, I'm going to type SCS. Now we have 2 things here. We have Import-Export SCS Tools, Import-Export ConverterPix Wrapper for conversion. I'm going to click both. Down in the lower left, I'm going to Save Preferences. Then I'm going to close this window. Blender Tools. Error summary, cannot create configuration file, permission denied. Please ensure read-write permissions for C program files, all that jazz. Without configuration, the Blender Tools might not work as expected. No problem. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm actually just gonna close Blender real quick. I'm going to right-click on Blender, and I'm gonna open the icon's properties. We're gonna go to the compatibility tab, and we're going to put a check mark in, run this program as an administrator. Apply, OK. Open up Blender, and all is well. You'll notice for a second the SCS Blender Tools was booting up over here. No errors, it went away. Problem solved. Let's go ahead and get rid of that camera. I'm going to leave the cube for now though, because it's going to prove useful in the setup. This is the part where you and I may part ways as far as preferences. Guys, set your Blender up however you want. How I'm going to show it right now is just what's easiest for me. I want you guys to be comfortable with your interface. I don't want anybody thinking, oh, he's telling us to set up our interface this way. No, I'm not. I'm just setting up the interface how I'm about to, just to show anybody who does not know how to set up their interface, A, how to do it, and B, get this to what I'm used to. All right, so the first things that I'm going to do here is this keying. I never use this window. It's just not something that I do. So I'm going to join the area. How I did that was I got on the edge, I right clicked, clicked join areas, drug the arrow down, and it drugged this silver. Now over here, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to do a vertical split. Now I'm going to get a line like so, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to left click. Then I'm going to come up here to the pull down menu on the top left of this duplicate window, and I'm going to change this to outliner. Now you see these two windows are the same. That's because I prefer the outliner over here. When you're modding, you're gonna have a lot of parts, guys, a ton of them. The list is gonna be long, so I prefer a full height outliner. That said, I'm gonna come over here and I'm actually going to join these areas upward. And that's that. This is actually how I prefer my interface setup for Blender. But we're not done setting up yet. I'm going to actually go down this row on the properties and set everything up for our SCS tools to get that put where I want it. On this first tab right here, you see this screwdriver and a wrench. I'm going to click on this. Now we have a bunch of SCS stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and drag the SCS global settings to the top, because I literally only use Blender to mod SCS. I'm going to go ahead and drag this up because all my SCS stuff is going to be the most prominent thing on there. Now you see a bunch of red stuff here, and red usually means bad, right? In this case, that's true. Red is bad because it wants to look at certain files and it doesn't have them. We need to actually set that up. So before I go any further in my interface setup, I'm going to go ahead and get my base folders and my extraction done for the game. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to be working with these shortcuts a lot as I do my modding. So I want to actually create a couple of shortcuts to my quick access. That said, I'm going to go to File Explorer, D drive, or whatever drive you put your stuff on, my mod workshop folder. I'm actually going to right click this and I'm going to pin to quick access. Now up here on the left side, mod workshop is there. Now when I click mod workshop, it goes here. In mod workshop, I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to call it base in all caps. The only reason I'm doing it in all caps is it makes it stand out and it lets me know, hey, this is my base folder. So I'm going to come in and have this base folder blank. Now I'm going to come into File Explorer again. And now I'm going to go into the D drive and I'm going to go into Steam library. Now, by the way, your library may differ, guys. It might differ. Wherever your Steam games are installed or wherever your truck simulator is installed is how you're going to get to do this. In my case, I have a Steam library in the root. So I'm going to go Steam library, Steam apps, common, American Truck Simulator. Now, you're going to see a bunch of files here. Depending on how you have everything set up, these may be blank white icons. They might not have the 7-zip icon like I have. If you guys are using WinRAR in your regular modders, you might have the WinRAR logo or the WinZip. In my case, I use 7-zip, so they look like the 7-zip symbol. So please don't be thrown off by the symbol. All you care about is the extension .scs. Okay, so now that we are looking at both folders and we're looking at the American Truck Simulator directory, now we could copy over as many SCS files as we need, but I'm only going to copy two, base and def. For the purposes of basic modding, these are all you're really going to need because everything else will be handled by our Blender imports and exports, which will be explained later on. So let's copy over base.scs and def.scs. Depending on your computer speed, this may take just a moment, so I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead because I'm doing this video on a laptop. As you can tell, it is quite the file size. I'm working on such a slow laptop, but it is what it is. I didn't want to mess up my installations on my main computer for the sake of this video, so I just grabbed my laptop so I could do everything from scratch. Anyway, we have base and def copied over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my American Truck Simulator install directory because I do not want to touch those files anymore. I don't even want a chance messing them up. We're just going to work with the stuff in our base. Now I'm going to go into my mod workshop and I'm going to grab that SCS extractor. I'm going to copy it and paste it into base. And then we're just going to do a drag and drop. We're going to drag and drop base onto SCS extractor, and it's going to open up this DOS window. Now, the process is going to be faster or slower, of course, depending on your computer. This is a very slow laptop, so it's going to probably take an upwards of 5 to 10 minutes to extract all these files. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward the video. Okay, and now that the files are extracted, the DOS window, it just disappears. That's normal. That's fine. There's no confirmation or anything. I'm going to take base.scs and delete it just to save some disk space because we don't need it anymore. The only time we'll ever need to extract a base SCS again is if the game updates a version. And def, we're going to do the same thing. This one won't take near as long. The def folder, by the way, contains all the text files that you create a majority of the mods and their configurations out of. So this is definitely crucial and needed. And now that is done. So I'm going to take def.scs and delete that as well. So now we're going to come back here and I'm going to go to these lines here. I'm going to ignore the top part that says SCS project base path. We are going to get to that. Don't worry. But for right now, we're just setting up Blender for our base references. So I'm going to go to trigger action library, which is looks like def world trigger action.sii. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to my mod workshop to my base folder. And then what I'm going to do with the base folder, I'm actually going to stop right here real quick just to make things quicker in the future. And I'm going to bookmark my base folder. So there it is. Now I'm going to go into def world, and remember it was trigger action.sii, right? Trigger underscore action.sii. So trigger action SII. So double click that and see it's no longer red. Sign library, def world sign SII. Okay. So click base, def world sign.sii. Semaphore library, def world semaphore profile. Okay. So base, def world semaphore profile. Your traffic rules, so def world traffic rules, base def world traffic rules, and then unit hookup directory. This is just a directory. We're not selecting a file on this, so we're just going to go base unit hookup and select that directory, and we're gonna select a material DB file. That's going to be a material, and then at the bottom material DB. DB means database, and that takes care of all that red. This path is going to remain red for the moment, but don't worry, we're going to come back to that, guys. All right, let's go to the next one down. There's nothing really to do with SCS here. This is more just rendering and things like that, so we're going to skip that. Output properties looks like a little printer icon. On this one, we do have some SCS stuff. I'm going to drag my SCS export to the top and my conversion helper to just below that. I don't think there's any other SCS. I'm going to collapse output and dimensions just to collapse those. And then what we're going to do here, default export path, I'm going to leave that blank for right now. Again, we'll come back to that, but we're going to go to conversion tools path. This is where I'm going to take kind of a shortcut. I'm going to go base, but then I'm going to go up one, and then we're going to go into this conversion tools folder. And I'm going to accept. So now the path to our conversion tools that we extracted will be right here, and it's no longer red. Good. Current SCS project, mod folder path, mod name, and things like that we'll get to later on. View layer properties, we're not going to do anything with that. Scene properties, we don't need to do anything with this. World properties, however, we do have, here it is. SCS lighting. So SCS lighting, I'm actually going to check this, and we need to direct to the library. So this is def climate default nice SII. So let's go base def climate default nice SII. And what this does is this brings up 24 files here. Now, in case you haven't guessed, these are sun positions, and each one of these are hours of the day. Suffice it, 01 is 1 in the morning, 6 in the morning. So if you really want to have everything at its brightest, 12 or 13, noon or 1 o'clock is probably the best way to go. I do prefer to work with 12 or 1. So we'll go ahead and do that. So next tab down, collection properties. Nothing to do there. Object properties. We have no SCS object, no SCS props for active project, but I'm just going to drag this to the top for now. So I have my SCS at the top. Transform, I'm going to leave expanded because we do work with transforms. And relations, I'm going to expand that because I work with parents a lot. All right, modifier properties, we're not doing anything there. We're not doing anything in the particle properties. We're not going to do anything in the physics. We're not going to do anything in the object constraint, and we're not going to do anything in the object data properties. So our next spot that we are doing something with is material properties. Surface, I'm going to collapse. I'm going to collapse settings. And then we have this SCS material. I'm going to drag SCS material to the top. It'll pop right down below this main material. That's normal. That's fine. This is how it should look. And then we're just going to leave the rest as alone for right now. We'll be coming back to that when we're actually working on something. And then under texture properties, there's nothing to do there. So there we have it. So I'm going to go ahead and come back up here to the tool and wrench, active tool and workspace settings. I'm going to highlight that. Next, I'm going to take this light and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to take the cube and I'm going to delete that. Now I'm going to go File. I'm going to come down to Defaults, Save Startup File. Click that. It's going to pop up with a little window. I'm going to click it again, Save Startup File. Now I have saved all of these configurations. Anytime I open Blender in the future, this is how it should look. Let's go ahead and test that out. I'm going to close Blender. No, I don't need to save changes to the project, and I'm going to open Blender. Doesn't matter which shortcut you use, but check it out. Now we're set up and we're ready to mod. All right, that actually concludes this episode. This is part 1 of my modding series. We've set up Blender, we've prepped it so that we could start modding. In the next episode, we're going to import our first mod, take a look at it, make an edit, and then export it. So I'll see you then.